Welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Your host, Jill Hart, the coach's Alchemist. Couldn't be more excited to have you join us today. On this podcast, we celebrate the champions of change, the up-and-coming life, health and transformational coaches who are fearlessly stepping forward to make a difference in the world. Get ready for inspiring stories, practical tips, and powerful moments that will motivate you to make a positive change in your life and those around you. We're happy to have you join us on this incredible journey as we dive into the world of life, health, and transformational coaches who are lighting up the path towards a better tomorrow.
Hi, and welcome to the New World Order Showcase podcast. We have with us today a very special guest, Kristi H Sullivan. Kristi is a human design and self-care expert. She's also an author and speaker. She is on a mission to help busy women, especially personal development junkies like us, understand their unique energetic blueprint and how self-care can shift our mindset, body, and spirit so that we can thrive and transform the world. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Jill.
It's nice to have you here, Kristi. So we're going to talk a lot about human design today, but you want to tell us your story? How did you get started? How did you fall into this? Because I'm sure you weren't born with, the desire to study human design.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And I didn't know it all my life for sure. I learned it, or I should just say discovered it about 7 years ago. And it was from a friend who was doing a coaching program I was in. And she gave us this insight into this amazing, amazing tool that has been around since the 80s. So it's sort of new, not really new. It's a blend of old actually systems, but I learned about it 7 years ago and started to dive into it. We call it diving into the rabbit hole for my own self-awareness and personal development. But I'd always run like charts for friends and family. I'd be like telling them, oh, let me look up your birth information. And about 4 years ago now, I left a marketing career and decided I wanted to do something on my own. And I followed my human design to lead me to end up teaching and speak about human design. So I used it and then ended up teaching it now.
Yeah, I love how that works out when we're kind of like go down this rabbit hole for ourselves, trying to figure out, what are we supposed to be doing? And then we are like, oh yeah, all these discoveries. And it's like, hey, I can grab your arm. Let me show you a way. So tell me a little bit about what human design is, how it got started, all the bits.
So I mentioned it came about in the 80s when a gentleman who we call it downloaded the information or had this like kind of a epiphany with spirit guides to understand that by blending together astrology, Kabbalah, I Ching, and quantum physics, those old modalities, and the chakra system, that those systems, when you overlaid them, brought them together, it created what's called an energy blueprint of how you're wired. There's over 3 billion combinations. So it's really a unique imprint of who you are. It goes much deeper than a personality assessment. It probably is a complement to things like astrology or other tools and it's based on really the alignment of planets on your birth date and 3 months prior. So those 2 dates makes this uniqueness about you.
It's interesting. I never knew about the 3-month before thing. I knew that it was kind of a combination of astrology and some other modalities out there, but I have wandered into the enneagrams and the Myers-Briggs and all of those pieces, but then you're like trying to piece together all of those different modalities to come up with one concise description of who you are. And as we were talking about before, it's not really a predictor of who you are going to be. It's more of and these are where your strengths are, and these are where your problem zones are probably going to end up showing up. So let's just take it into consideration. But it sounds like human design is kind of a combining of all of those things so that you have a more succinct blueprint. I just
Yeah.
envisioned like the schematics for electronics when you said that.
Yeah. And what's interesting, I say, is when you look at a personality assessment like Myers-Briggs or
Mhm.
DISC that I learned, you answer a set of questions, and those questions, the way that you answer is who you are, but it's with your upbringing, with how your conditioning is, what your thoughts, your belief system is like, and that could be passed down from your family generations. It could be influenced by what's around you, like how you were schooled, your job. So those type of assessments really take into account your life experiences. And I think of human design as who you are at your core. It's how you were birthed. And then those experiences are the layers on top of that. So it's not to say one's better than the other. They work in combination. But when you look at your human design blueprint, for example, and you're right, nothing is really predictive, because I think of that as that's life, the road that we're on. And sometimes astrology will tell us like, oh, around the age of 40 or 50, you might experience this because of different planets transiting. We won't get into that. But human design is the car that you're driving on that path. That's how I think of it. And when you look under the hood and see how are you wired, so life experiences could be the pink color you choose, and you know what your interior looks like, but the way that you're wired, what gas do you use? Because that's really, really key to making sure that your car is working right. So how are you optimizing who you are at your core so that your life thrives, your maybe business thrives, and the way that you're showing up in life with that personality, with those life experiences, you can find more ease and flow, so to speak, because you're more aware of how you naturally operate.
Yeah, and it seems to me that there's different levels with it. Like there's the model of the car that you're driving, and there's only like a certain number of models. It's not like an
Right.
infinite number of models to choose from. Is it one of three or four?
5.
Five. Okay. So you've got 5 car models, and then how you decorate the car and the kind of wheels you want to put on it. That's kind of,
Right. Are you a V6 or a V4? So
yeah.
when we start in human design, we start with what's called the energy type or aura that you have. It's again all about energy. It's not meant to categorize you, but to help you understand how your energy operates. So 2 of those types, if you want me to share a little bit on that, 2 of the types are what's called generators, manifesting generators or pure generators. And what makes them in this category is that I'm one of them. And so are you, according to the chart I pulled for you. What makes us this type is that we have pretty consistent, reliable workforce, life force energy. It means most of the day we're busy doing things. We like being productive. We like getting assigned tasks or projects or getting involved even in businesses where things are happening and we're like responding to different things throughout the day, because that's how our energy is. And we're pretty when we're healthy and rested, we pretty much have that energizer type bunny movement and work. And that's what our role really is. There's a 30% though of energy types, and these labels or categories are the projector, manifestor, and reflector, the other 3. And these 3 types don't have the same, so to speak, car battery running behind the scenes. They are more like the electric cars that need to be plugged in and recharged perhaps throughout the day. They really need more downtime. They need to conserve their energy so that when they're using it, they are powerful and they're working perhaps hard. They're busy, so to speak, but they're doing it in a way. And when you understand, or if you're that type, that your energy isn't sustainable, it helps you from getting burned out, from feeling overwhelmed, and also oftentimes, fatigue and just maybe even health issues. So there's right off the bat, like different ways to look at that energy and how that energy shows up for us.
It seems like knowing other people's human design chart would be really helpful, because if you're running into, as a manifester or generator, when you run into people that aren't like you, it can be really frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's how we've been operating much of our lives, or in systems where we think everyone maybe should learn the same way, or if we're building a business, should be doing business the same way, or here's the secret formula. What we're finding in human design, what I've discovered, is that everyone really has a unique way of doing things. And so when we start to recognize first in yourself your unique way of doing something, it helps you feel perhaps more seen, more validated. And then you can also show up for others because you start to understand that they're unique. They don't have the same design for certain as you are. So, when you start to understand, whether maybe you're a parent and understanding your children's design, or a spouse or partner, or even in a business, perhaps like some of your clients or some of your business partnerships, that you can then recognize how other people maybe operate differently. And that's like an interesting starting point. But I always say, first, really look at your own, uniqueness, and start to understand your design. Otherwise, we call it, again, being in the rabbit hole. You'll be in a lot of complex information. And you can also start to look at what happens when these two different energies do coexist. We call that yet another way of looking at design, a connection design.
Yeah. And it helps with relationships. The whole world is not the same. We're all different, and being able to appreciate others' differences is really, it increases the value of the whole when you can appreciate how someone is different and how that differentness connects to what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because it does connect.
Yeah. And it can help things like improve even communication in relationships. It can help improve in businesses, how you're even operating in your business strategy. I've had clients who have, shifted what they're doing so that they're not overworking and overextending when their energy really runs out, and they're just pushing themselves. And they may be getting some success, but there's a cost of that burnout. It can also help you in maybe your career. Generator types really need to be doing the right kind of work, because we like to be the worker bee. And if we're not doing the right kind of work, we'll start to drain our energy and our batteries. When you're the projector type, what's nice is, if you know somebody who's a projector, they're really here to give guidance and wisdom and almost counsel, be advisors. And so they want to offer suggestions. So to understand, wow, they're really just showing up in that energy. And for them to understand that they don't need to share that with everybody, with the right people in the right time. It helps us, again, honor each other in a different way, to understand that we have unique roles, and especially when it comes to our energy and how we're using the energy and how that energy plays with other energies.
Yeah. I get these little mind pictures sometimes. I'm seeing little lights dancing around in my mind when you're talking about the energies. So when it comes to human design, and applying it. How does that look?
Yeah, so we said already that it can be pretty complex. So I usually tell clients or in my readings to start with 3 basic elements. I have also something called the flow method. And this first step is find these 3 elements, which are your energy type, your strategy for the type that of energy that you are, and the third is what's called your authority or decision-making mechanism. And these are 3 really important elements. These are the 3 biggest things I would say in your design that when you start to use them in an everyday way can make a big impact. So for example, the generator type that you are, it's really important you're doing the right kind of work because generator energy wants that to help energize them on a daily basis. It's also really important to notice that you're not initiating and forcing because that's not the strategy of a generator type. It's really to respond. So are you responding versus initiating things? Responding means, we wake up and have things on our task list. We have calls that we have to make, or people email us and we have to respond, or opportunities might show up to respond to. And the third piece that's part of, again, that everyday use is responding to the right things and using your decision-making to do that. And it's not using the head, but for example, in your case, Jill, you have what's called emotional authority. And about 50% of the population has this. And it means that when those opportunities show up, that you feel into, is this right for me? If it's a feeling from inside that lights you up, that's a key. And then the emotional part is wait and see if that feeling continues. If it goes away, for example, if you sleep on a decision and then suddenly you're like, I really don't feel like that's the right thing for me, then it's a no. If it's a consistent yes, that will help you to guide you to say yes to the right things. So you're, again, not overworking. You're not choosing to do things that don't light you up, and you're not burning yourself out in that sense.
Yeah, I have recognized that, but it's something that's been fairly recent in my life. I used to just do whatever anybody needed me to do, or I felt like needed to be done. And I was burning out, and it was just like, I call them boundaries now, but I didn't have boundaries for the longest time. And I started resenting people and all the ugly things, but it's really a case of being able to recognize that I do have the power to feel. I talk about feeling a lot in my language because I do feel things. I know intuitively, yeah, this is not going to turn out well. I can see the end from the beginning. Let's just not even go down that path. And it's just the ability to recognize that, yeah, I do have that skill. And maybe half the population has it. So like every other person that you talk to doesn't have that ability. So you have to recognize that too, that they might not understand what you're doing.
Yeah. So the real difference is, and the key being, everybody really has this inner guidance. It's how does it work within them? And 50%, it is more of an instant feeling and in the moment and paying attention to that. And then the 50% with the emotional authority, it's key to wait, because you have what's called an emotional wave. So if you feel this yes in the moment, but it goes away, it's because probably you were in an emotional high. And they say if you then realize later that it wasn't the right yes, then you regret it. So we all can use this feeling. What I love is what you said, feeling, because in some way it shows up as a feeling. It could be this intuitive, again, feeling in the gut. It could be this feeling across time, across your emotional wave. It could be a knowing, or this something within you that really leads you to the idea of saying yes, but it's not the head. When we start to overthink things, when we use the head for making a decision, it can often cause confusion. And also, the head is really just meant to hold information. Sometimes it's also we're changing our mind. We change our perspective, but the body is always sort of a reliable way for decision making. And yeah, it's hard for those with emotional authority, though, because we're in a society that needs that instant yes or no, or what do you think, and what do what tell me what you want. And sometimes the emotional energy just needs some time. And so sometimes we all need to slow down to do that.
Yeah, I like that. I like that we're focusing more on how we feel in our bodies, and we're starting to recognize that more broadly in society than I think ever has, that I can remember. It used to be, it was all, you just need to think about it or make a decision and not feel what the decision should be. It's
Yeah.
it's a nice change for how things are going.
And it's in line with what we're seeing in the human design system, that we're having an evolution right now where the energy of that emotion and sensing is really getting amplified. It's as if it's getting stronger in many people. And you might have like some listeners, I have some clients that they really understand this because they've been working on it. They've worked on using empathicness to sense things, or being open to the fact that, wow, why do I feel that way? Maybe it's from feeling other people's feelings or picking up things from others. But there's others who are just kind of starting to learn about this. And as a human species, we're really starting to all get into this more sensory place. We'll probably see down the road, it maybe even take a generation or two, that a real reliance on that. And you could see it early on when we went from like this head intelligence to what they call emotional intelligence. That was one step where you could see, oh, emotions really do play a role. Now they're even saying, in a healing process, like emotions are very, very important. It's not just what happened, but what you were feeling. That's really important.
And recognizing the feelings. For the longest time, we were told to, shut up and sit down.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to hear about what you're feeling. And I can remember when I was young, my parents used to call me Sarah Bernhardt because I would cry a lot. And crying is just a natural process. You need to let kids cry sometimes.
Yeah.
They need to understand what that emotion is about. But we're starting to explore emotions more fully, which is just, it's a good thing in my worldview.
Yeah, and it's interesting, the acronym flow that I use, the L, we mentioned the F, but the L stands for love yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is loving self-care. And self-care also means getting to know yourself on a deeper level, learning to accept the things and the ways that you are, and to understand some of the things that are actually can be gifts and helpful. The O is actually to recognize and overcome conditioning, like you had mentioned, which was one thing that we've all experienced, which is be seen and not heard. So, oh, you're crying. Well, stop that crying, or, go into the next room and cry. It was sometimes what we were taught when we were younger, and this conditioning of like, don't share those or show those emotions. And sometimes what we learn for conditioning is not helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you start to look through the lens of human design to say, well, what has been programmed that's not maybe the way I'm naturally doing things, and start to uncover those conditions or the self-limiting beliefs, or even how trauma has affected you, and to start healing some of those pieces too. And so it speaks to that, that we do need to have our feelings. We need to also love who we are.
Yeah. And that we are enough, just as we are.
Absolutely.
So you do coach people on this, and do you coach them in terms of training them how to be human design coaches, or do you teach them or coach them on their human design?
Yeah.
I think I'm struggling to ask this
I get what you're
question.
saying. I call myself more of a guide. I help people on the journey of understanding what human design is and how to
Mhm.
use it in their day-to-day lives or in business. I think it can be a really great tool for helping your business get to the next level, because part of that is your inner work helps what's happening on the outside. So I will guide folks. I have a membership group. It's like a container for the support, the learning, the understanding, and then helping others to really see how this tool works in their world, in their life.
Mhm.
And I have taught classes and the structure of human design to others who really want to start maybe using it for themselves or as parents or perhaps with their clients. And I've kind of dabbled in that a little bit, but I think my main audience tends to be women who are new to learning human design and who really want to go from this overworking to overflowing, which is the name of the book that I created, because they are at a period in time where they just want things to shift and to find more freedom, to find more clarity in what they're doing and how they're showing up.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense in terms of often we know we want to do something, and we'll just, for us generators, we just go out there and we start. And then clarity comes along somewhere along the line. But having somebody to show you, hey, maybe you should look at this in this direction, and maybe you should slow down, and this is how you should process some of this information, or not should so much as this might help you processing the information that's coming in. And you could take it into advisement, let's put it that way. So you do have the group that you have people join. Do you have one-on-one, or is it just in the group coaching container that you're working with these people?
I do offer individual, what I call readings. They span over 2 sessions so that we can go over your chart. If you come into the group, that's the first step, is that you always get that overview of your chart and information. I do have a special tool on my website. You can run a chart, but I always recommend starting with having a reading, or if you are familiar with human design, you come into the group, and that's another way to dive deeper into the rabbit hole.
That sounds fun. So they can get your human design chart, or access to your human design chart, by going to your website, which is?
Yeah, so I have a link that you can post, but it's also a newly launched website. It's hdwithkristi.com. And then my other website is Kristi H Sullivan. And I'm also active on Facebook. But where you go, there'll be many places I'll be posting that, so you can access your chart and connect with me if you want a reading, or if you want to come into the membership. And the other great thing about the membership is we do look at the energy of what's going on outside of us. Maybe we're getting influenced not only by people around us, but also the planets that are transiting. And sometimes some of that, we call it celestial weather, that's happening, so that we know how is that affecting our energy, and giving us sort of the signs to be prepared for that weather, or to know that sometimes things that are happening are natural and are not things that are wrong or have to be fixed, but really things that we just need to feel.
Yeah. I love that. So I'm going to put you on the spot here for just a second. This
Yeah.
year has promised to be like an amazing year for pretty much everybody. And there was a lot of excitement as we're getting ready to come into the year. And as this episode will be dropping around the middle of or end of June, do you have any thoughts about the final 6 months of the year as far as like a weather forecast from the human design viewpoint?
Yeah, and
Or is it too
this
much on
really
the spot?
comes from sources that I'm in touch with and listen to, and they all seem to be very, similar themes. How the beginning of this year, there's been a big shift. Part of it is this idea that the rotation of Pluto is just come back into Aquarius, and that's huge if you know astrology. And in September, it's going to go retrograde a bit. It's like Mercury goes retrograde. It's Pluto will. So we're kind of going to go back, and then really like end of November will be this like beautiful like shift into the age of Aquarius, I guess they call it. So
got
I
goosebumps.
hear though many some people saying, really just practice the grounding, the strength, because it can be bumpy this year. It will be magical. It will be very transformative for those who are doing their self-care and their inner work. It can be a little smoother. And others may be on quite a ride, but we're all meant to really evolve and shift. And that's what this year is, really a big shift going into next year as well.
That's so exciting. I so appreciate all of this. It's been very insightful. So what's the one thing that you hope the audience takes away from our conversation?
Well, if you're not familiar with your design, your chart, look it up. I think it's really an interesting thing to take a look at, and look at how you're wired, your energy. And most important is, and I'm going to end with the W of flow, which is work in your design and really slow down and sometimes wait. Give yourself time to digest things. Give yourself time. Generator types are not here to initiate, so we have to sort of wait for the right thing to show up. And then we're like a go. The non-generator types need to wait and rest. So there's a lot of that waiting and knowing when's the right time to move forward, that we have to trust, especially this year. And so I think that's what my FLOW acronym stands for. And I'd love to connect with anyone who wants to learn more about their human design.
That's awesome. We'll make sure we put your link to your website and also your Facebook group in the show notes so people can get in touch with you. Thank you so much for joining me, Kristi. It's been amazing.
Thank you so much.
Welcome to the New World Order Showcase Podcast. Your host, Jill Hart, the Coach's Alchemist. Couldn't be more excited to have you join us today. On this podcast, we celebrate the champions of change, the up-and-coming life, health and transformational coaches who are fearlessly stepping forward to make a difference in the world. Get ready for inspiring stories, practical tips, and powerful moments that will motivate you to make a positive change in your life and those around you. We're happy to have you join us on this incredible journey as we dive into the world of life, health, and transformational coaches who are lighting up the path towards a better tomorrow.